In 1962, on the north bank of the Chicago River, construction crews poured concrete into the structural columns of what would become the tallest concrete apartment buildings on Earth. They were working from the drawings of a visionary architect named Bertrand Goldberg. They were executing a design that the architectural world would later call a masterpiece. They were building something Chicago had never seen. 2 cylindrical towers, each 65 stories, rising above the river like sculptures. And into those columns, into that very first pour, they mixed concrete contaminated with chloride ions. No one sounded an alarm. The building went up, the world applauded, and the clock started ticking. Marina City, completed 1964. It rises 587 feet tall and has 65 floors per tower. Address: 300 North State Street, downtown Chicago. At the moment of completion, they were the tallest reinforced concrete structures on the planet. They were also the tallest apartment buildings on Earth. The press called them the corn cobs. The American Institute of Architects called them a masterpiece. Photographers called them the most photographed apartment buildings in America. Wilco put them on the cover of Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, one of the greatest albums of the 2000s. The towers became a symbol of Chicago, of mid-century American optimism, of what concrete and ambition could do together. But a symbol is only as solid as what it is made of. And what Marina City was made of was already sick. Let's look at the building itself. Floors 1 through 19 are a continuous spiral parking ramp, roughly 896 cars per tower. Above that, floors 20 through 60 hold 450 apartments per tower. Each floor has 16 pie-shaped, wedge-shaped units arranged around the central core. Each wedge ends in an open, curved balcony hanging over the river. Do the arithmetic. 16 balconies per floor, 39 residential floors, 2 towers. That is 1,248 balconies, 1,248 wedge-shaped slabs of exposed concrete, every one of them with a drain, every one of them open to the Chicago sky, every one of them bending outward over the river, unsheltered, unprotected, facing exactly the kind of environment that turns a concrete flaw into a structural catastrophe. In 1989, 25 years after completion, the firm Wiss, Janney, Elstner Associates was hired to find out why the towers were already deteriorating. They climbed the facade with diamond-tipped core drills and pulled samples from deep inside both buildings. The lab results were damning. Finding one, the concrete cover protecting the embedded rebar, the steel reinforcement that holds the entire building up, was too thin in critical exterior zones. Modern standards require 1.5 to 2 inches of cover for concrete exposed to weather. Goldberg's 1959 specification, shaped by his desire for a light, sculptural cylinder, fell short in places that mattered most. Finding 2, the concrete itself contained chloride ions, not from surface weathering, and not from decades of road salt drifting off the river. The chlorides came from the original aggregate, from the original mix, baked in since 1962. Here is what chloride ions do inside concrete. They attack the passive oxide layer, a thin chemical film that coats rebar and keeps oxygen and water from reaching the steel. Once that layer is gone, the steel begins to corrode. Corroding steel expands, not a little, up to 7 times its original volume. That expansion generates pressure the surrounding concrete cannot resist. It cracks. The cracks open pathways for water. The water carries more chlorides deeper into the slab. The corrosion accelerates, the cracks widen. More water, more chlorides, more rust. The cycle feeds itself. It has no natural endpoint, and there is no chemistry on Earth, none, that extracts chloride ions from cured concrete. You cannot wash it out. You cannot neutralize it. You can coat the surface, you can slow the infiltration, but the contamination sealed inside in 1962 is still there. It has always been there. It is working right now. The engineering verdict: Marina City was not damaged by time or weather or neglect. It was damaged by the concrete it was made of on the day it was poured. Every repair since has been a response to a disease that cannot be cured, only managed. Now add the geometry of the balconies themselves. 1,248 pie-shaped slabs, each one ending in a curved railing over open air. Each one with a drain positioned by construction crews in the 1960s, before computational fluid modeling and before modern grading standards. The result is uneven surfaces. Water does not drain completely, it pools. Engineers call it ponding. Chicago averages between 50 and 70 freeze-thaw cycles per winter. Every cycle, the pooled water on those balconies freezes. Frozen water expands by 9%. That expansion drives into every surface crack, every hairline fracture, every thin spot in the concrete cover. When the thaw comes, the water sinks deeper. The next freeze pushes it deeper still. Multiply that by 60 Chicago winters. Multiply it across 1,248 balconies. And multiply it by the chloride contamination already waiting inside the slab, ready to attack the rebar the moment the water finally reaches it. That is the equation that has been running on Marina City every single winter since 1964. Watch the building try to defend itself. 1977. The Condo Association coats the entire surface of both towers with Modak, a solvent-based acrylic waterproofing system. The towers change color from gray to tan. The preservation organization Landmarks Illinois will later put it plainly. By the late 1980s, both the concrete and the Modak coating were already deteriorating. 1989. The WJE report lands. Inadequate cover, chloride contamination, active corrosion. The diagnosis is official. Early 1990s, the Marina Towers Condominium Association spends $1.7 million over 3 years on full-depth concrete repair and recoating. In 1992, the Chicago Tribune describes the complex as a seedy, crumbling wreck. A bankruptcy judge tells the court that Marina City will fall into the river. 2003, the towers are recoated again. Same Modak family acrylic. From 2009 to 2010, more than $1 million in balcony concrete repairs. Workers on swing stage scaffolding 260 feet above Dearborn Street, cutting around deteriorated concrete, sandblasting exposed rebar back to bare steel, coating with epoxy, patching with adhesive concrete mix, 16 balconies per floor, 44 residential floors, 2 towers. These were major repairs. 2015, a Chicago Department of Buildings inspector writes a code violation. Failure to maintain exterior walls. Engineers examine 1,920 balcony handrail posts. Problems on nearly every one. March 2016, 2 weeks before Marina City is granted official Chicago landmark status, the Condo Association pulls a permit for $2.1 million. The scope includes 1,920 handrail posts replaced, 1,300 balusters replaced, 1,020 bottom rails replaced, work running 8 weeks for single balcony units, up to 16 weeks for 2 balcony units. Some residents lose access from October 2015 through the entire summer of 2016. One renter received a $100 per month rent reduction for losing the only outdoor space he had. The view from the Wilco album cover, for the people who actually lived there, was yellow caution tape stretched across their balcony doors. The landmark plaque went up on one side of the building. The caution tape went up on the other. Here is the full picture. Marina City has undergone major facade intervention in 1977, 1991, 2003, 2009, and 2016. That's 5 separate campaigns in 45 years. The Chicago Facade Ordinance requires inspection on a 4 to 12-year cycle, which means the next round is already scheduled. It never ends because it cannot end. The Marina Towers Condominium Association does not own a building in the conventional sense. It owns a chronic patient. It owns a structure whose disease was sealed into its bones the day the concrete was poured, and whose owners have been paying the medical bills in the form of special assessments, repair levies, and lost balcony access for more than 4 decades. Every buyer who has purchased a unit since 1977 inherited the chloride contamination along with the river views. Every one of them has contributed to repair budgets that exist solely because of decisions made in 1962, that no one can undo. And yet, both things remain true at the same time. These are among the most extraordinary buildings ever constructed. The engineering ambition behind two cylindrical concrete towers, built without computers, cast in custom fiberglass forms, rising 65 floors above a river bend, was genuinely remarkable. Goldberg was not a fraud. He was a visionary who worked at the edge of what his era's materials and methods could deliver. He delivered a sculpture. He delivered an icon. He delivered a building that reshaped how the world thought about what urban housing could look like. He also delivered 1,248 pie-shaped water traps hanging over the Chicago River, cast in chloride contaminated concrete with thin cover over rusting rebar for 60 winters and counting. The crime is not collapse. The towers are still standing. The crime is quieter than that. The crime is that the most famous apartment buildings in America were poured wrong in 1962, and that every person who has called them home since has been living inside a building that has been paying for that mistake, one repair cycle at a time, and will keep paying until the last chloride ion finds the last piece of rebar left to eat.